why most dental marketing fails and how to make yours work. Have you noticed that it can be harder to get new patients to your practice, that maybe the things you're doing with your marketing previously, you're just not getting the same results now? Are you finding you're having to do more than you ever had to do just to get a reasonable number of new patients in your practice? You find that your patients are maybe not quite as loyal as they used to be. If you're experiencing these things, then this video is for you. In this video, I'm going to go through 5 mistakes that dental practices make with their marketing so that you can avoid them. And make sure you stay to the end because I've got a nice little freebie for you. Mistake number 1, targeting the wrong audience. As someone who's worked with the dental industry for a long time, I've done more than 10,000 hours of consulting with practices all over Australia. I will often say to dentists, so who's the ideal patient for your practice? And they're like, what are you talking about, Angus? What do you mean ideal? Like, the ideal patient is someone who's got teeth, or maybe better yet, no teeth. But the truth is, in business, here's a truism. You want a recipe for failure? Try to be all things to all people, because what you end up being is what I'll call nothing to anyone. And so the better you can identify your ideal patient, the more you can attract more of those. Now, to give you an idea why this matters, I've looked at data from lots and lots of practices. At some practices, the top 3, 4, 5%, so just a tiny little part of patients on the books, can contribute to as high as 30% of your business. Think about that. Your top 3%, like one practice I looked at, it was literally just the top 30 patients. What they spent in a year was like 30% of the business's revenue. And that's why it's important to get this right. So identifying your ideal patient, the process is relatively straightforward. Hopefully you're using practice management system. You run a report, you search from the person who spent the most money with you in the last 12 months to the least, and you identify those top 30 or so patients. Then you look at their kind of demographics, you know, what their age is, their gender, their family composition, maybe even what suburb they live. If you kind of smush them all together, you'll end up with an ideal patient. And believe me, this is worth doing, because whoever that person is, you want lots more of them. If you need convincing, go down and look at the bottom of the list and look at the top 30 patients. In many cases, these are the ones that are causing maximum headaches. They don't do what you ethically recommend. They don't come very often. They don't want to spend anything. Like, life's too short. Who wants to be seeing those people? So mistake number 1 is not identifying your ideal patient, and that is definitely something you should do. Mistake number 2, no clear message, or what marketers call value proposition. What is a value proposition? Honestly, it's the answer to the question, why should I choose you? Now, I can tell you, and again, I've been doing this for a long time, many practices will say, oh yeah, Angus, we've got this all figured out. It's because we've got great clinical skills, or we're gentle, or we're friendly. To which I would say every dentist in Australia can probably make the same claims. I mean, great clinical skills, like this is what a friend of mine, Mark Costas, calls tickets to the dance. If you don't have good clinical skills, you don't get to go to the dance. Like, patients expect that you're going to have good clinical skills. So that, unfortunately, is not a good way to have a strong value proposition. We're friendly. Like, what are we going to do? Is there an independent measure for your friendliness? You know, someone comes in and says, we gave you a 7.5 out of 10, and the answer, of course, is no. There's no way of knowing that. And certainly, you know, gentleness, again, is very difficult as a sustainable way of saying that this is the reason you should choose us. It's got some value, but in reality, what you need to do is, once you've identified who your ideal client is, then you think, what is it that they would value in dealing with your practice? And I'm going to tell you something that may shock you. It's got almost nothing to do with your clinical skills. Again, the problem is they can't tell if your clinical dentistry is good or bad. I mean, sure, if a filling falls out, but for the most part, they can't tell. So how do you determine a good value proposition? Well, in truth, you probably need professional help, but nevertheless, as a starting step, this is what you can do. Look at that top 30 group that I mentioned earlier in the video and ask yourself the question, if they were talking to friends of theirs, how would they describe your practice? I've done this workshop hundreds of times for practices, and some people start talking about, well, we do this and we do that. No. How would your best patients describe what you do. And once you start looking through their eyes, you discover that they talk about things that frankly dental practices don't talk about. It tends to be all these other things like, basically it's how you make them feel when they come in. The team, they're always asking about me and my family. They help me feel like, and we've done so many of these, it's like they always run on time. They help with the health of my whole family. There's lots of different examples. And actually, once you do this, you end up with a very personalized message to your ideal patient. And that's the point. Your ideal patient, when they land on your website, when they see your marketing, they go, oh my goodness, these people are speaking to me. And that is exactly what we want. Mistake number 3, inconsistent marketing. Now, there are 2 aspects to being inconsistent. The first one is pretty obvious. For a lot of marketing channels, there's a sort of things kind of last for a bit and then they just disappear. For example, social media is an obvious one, isn't it? And so you can't say, hey, Angus, we did amazing social media posts a year ago. Like, I dare you to try and even find them. And so they don't have any currency, those things. And so the consistency that you need is when you're choosing your marketing channels, and unfortunately, more is better, but I'll take consistency over multiple channels. Then you need to be consistently producing content. Like right now, my team and I have booked a full day in the studio. I'm in the studio right now. It's, 8:40 in the morning recording this video for you. And we record 3 months of content in a full day. And then that allows us to be posting multiple times every week. Now, you don't have to do anything that significant, but I just think you take my point. It's like at a bare minimum for your social media, you want to be there once or twice a month, because this is what happens otherwise. Someone may hear about you, maybe they go to your website and then they think, I wonder what these people are like. Let me go to your social media page. And then suddenly, crickets. There's been no posting in a year or so, and your website says we're modern and innovative, and the social media says, no, we're not. So that consistency of content, fresh blogs maybe once a month on your website, updating your Google business page at least monthly, updating your social media at least monthly, and on and on. There's a second part about consistency, and it's this. Remember the process we've gone through. Mistake number 1, we need our ideal patient. Mistake number 2, we need to figure out what our value proposition is. Mistake number 3 in inconsistency is once you know your value proposition, you need to deliver that message over and over and over again. Now, typically what you'll end up with is kind of 3 points. At our practice, for example, we run on time. And so that becomes a message that we go to again and again. At our practice, we're fantastic with kids, and that becomes a message that runs over and over with time. So that consistency of producing content, I'm not saying you need to be doing stuff every day, but just be consistent. And then secondly, consistency of messaging. Those 2 things together will make a massive difference. Mistake number 4, no tracking. One of the challenges with this exercise is that marketing is kind of part science and part art, a little bit like dentistry, isn't it? And what that means is we're making some assumptions. It's kind of a hypothesis, and we need that tracking to help us understand what's actually working. Let me explain. The truth is that for people to come and choose you for their practice, in many cases, they've gone through multiple touch points. Now, touch points is marketing speak for some kind of interaction with your brand. It could be word of mouth, it could be social media, it could be your website, it could be Google, etc., etc. And I want you to think about this for a second. Like, imagine you go to a movie today that 3 weeks ago you'd never even heard of. Well, you go through a journey, don't you? It's pretty rare to hear about the movie once and then just go. Unless it's a sequel or something. But in many cases, like, never even heard of it, and then somebody mentions it. And then maybe I see it on social media, and then I see it in a bus shelter, and then it's mentioned on the news or whatever. And it's sort of the aggregate of those things, and you go, oh, actually, it's date night. Like, why don't we go to the movies? I've heard about that thing. And the question is, which one of those touch points caused you to go to that movie? And the answer is all of them. Well, it's the same in marketing. And so therefore, when we're looking at our tracking, here are the things I'd like to see. Firstly, many practices do not track where their patients come from at all. But what I often see is practices, they'll have on their new patient form, how did you hear about us? Check the box. Now, in light of what I just told you, what I recommend you do is check all that applies, because it's not one thing, is it? And otherwise what happens is all you're getting is the last thing they did. And often you'll get Google search because they've Googled you to find your phone number. But really, I want to find out all of the things that they've seen before they decided to choose you. Now, even better than that is to ask them when they're calling the practice on the phone. And let's say they agree to book in, you've got all their information, then you can say, so just by the way, I think this is a better question, who do we thank for referring you to us? And that's the perfect time because they've just done the exercise and they'll say, oh, well, it was Google. And then you can say, oh, that's great. Did you hear about us any other ways? And then you can check the boxes. My point here is very simple. With that tracking, you'll figure out all of the channels that are working and you're looking for a channel that maybe you're spending money on, a magazine or something. If no one ever mentions that, that's an indication that's probably not working. But importantly, grab all the different sources and look to see what that data shows. And finally, mistake number 5, what we call the broken patient journey. You know, it can be hard to put yourself in the shoes of patients, particularly if you've been in practice for some time. But the reality is, as I've described, the patients go from never having even heard of you, going through the know, like, and trust journey, and finally becoming a patient. But there can be breaks in that journey, and they can happen at lots of different spots. Now, you have lots of touch points. They contact the practice. Maybe they're booking an appointment online, and if they are, some practices go, yay, you know, I've come in this morning and someone's booked yesterday, that's great. I guess we'll just see them in 2 weeks' time when their appointment is. But that's an opportunity where there could be a break. In that instance, absolutely ring them, call them, confirm. Even if you've got to make up a slightly spurious reason to call them, it's like, hey, Angus, look, we see you booked in. I just wanted to check, are you aware what the parking arrangements are for the practice? Just anything like that. Because what happens is I can be sitting there, you know, 9 o'clock at night watching TV and I go, oh, haven't been to the dentist for a while, let me check. Go through all those touch points. I've heard of these people. I've read a bunch of reviews. That is one way that people can do a lot of touch points very quickly. I could read through 10 reviews in about 2 minutes and go, yep, sounds like this is the practice, book it in. So that can be one spot where the patient communication could be broken. But let's assume that they booked the appointment. If they booked online, you call them. If you've spoken to them on the phone, well, that's pretty clear. I'd like to see a follow-up, at least an email, possibly a pack being sent through the post. You just need to keep reassuring people that they've made a good decision in coming to you. Then they have the experience at the practice, and believe me, the thing that they are judging you on most is not the clinical skills, but all of the things surrounding it. What did it feel like to be a patient? How warm was the welcome? What was your reception area like? How tidy was the surgery? Because what happens is patients make a judgment about your clinical skills, not based on your clinical skills, because they've got no way of knowing, but based on all of those other things. And then the next part is, what was it like at the end? And then what happens after? And that's another point where things can drop off for the patient. My message here is very simple. You want to have a real consistent journey for the patient from the first time they start thinking about you until they make communication with you, until they attend the appointment, and even after. Because if you can get that person to be a loyal patient, that makes a massive difference. And believe me, this is a mistake many practices make. Hey, enjoying this content? Then why not get more by subscribing? Tap on the bell to make sure you don't miss out on any more content. All right, so let's recap. Mistake number 1, not defining who your ideal patient is. Mistake number 2, not defining why they should choose you, which is sometimes known as a value proposition. Mistake number 3, inconsistent marketing, both in terms of your message being consistent and also the frequency being consistent. Mistake number 4, no tracking. You need to know what marketing's working and what marketing's not. And then finally, mistake number 5, a broken patient journey. If you can get all of those things working together, you can really revolutionize your practice and make sure your books are consistently full. So there you have it, why most dental marketing fails. The truth is, in many cases, it's because you're not getting the kind of help that you need. This is the reality. It sounds simple to deliver this stuff, but in my experience, it's very rare for me to find a practice that can do this really well themselves. You probably need professional help. Nevertheless, I've gone through the 5 steps, and it's a chance for you to do that. Now, I promised you a freebie. In the description below, there's a link, and that would be my free gift to you. Otherwise, see you next time.